Hi friends, welcome to Wild Cottage. Chef just wanted to come in and say hello. I'm podcasting in a different place today near my yarn stash because I'm going to talk about a few things, projects that I want to do, and I want to show you some of the yarns I have waiting. So yes, okay, good boy. He wanted to say hi. He's just right here on the ground, but you can't. First off, let me say welcome. If this is your first time here, you're so welcome. My name is Susan, and if you are a returning viewer, yay, thank you so much. I'm glad you liked it enough to come back again. And yeah, so pleased to have you all here, and hope you enjoy this podcast as well. This is podcast number 5. It's Monday the 8th of February in 2021. I did my last podcast a week ago on Bridget's Day, and I've got a few things worked on since then. I don't have any finished objects, but I have a few new project ideas, like I was saying, so we'll talk about that. And of course I have the Oooo shiny section, a few things that I forgot to mention last time, and a couple new things that I came across. Some of them are crochet, so I'm just starting to learn to crochet, so we'll be talking about that a little bit as well. So if you're interested in crochet, there might be something of interest to you here. So I think I will put in, if I haven't put it in at the front, I'll put it in somewhere, maybe my tea that I'm drinking today. It's a lovely Northern Irish tea in my lovely mug from Ugly Fish Ceramics. They are amazing, beautiful handmade objects, not inexpensive, but worth it. You know, get 1 or 2 pieces. This was a gift from Susanna. You know, really special piece that you will treasure, and it's heavy and sturdy. It's got 3 legs. Again, I'm not sponsored by anyone. I just talk about things that I enjoy, and I think you might enjoy as well. Let's get to the podcast. So what I'm wearing, you've probably seen, is this is the oak shawl. And one reason I've put this on at the minute is because I just have decided that I love this design of shawl for me so much. So I'll try to stand back here so you can see how far down it goes, like this. And I've just taken 2 hair slides, 2 hair clips, or I think barrettes is what they're called in the States. And I've just put them in here to close this. I don't have the shawl pins, and I didn't make buttonholes. So, but I love this because, you know, and I could put a few more there, and I could even, you know, put a little clip there and have it be, so I don't know what you would call that. Is that a swancho, or I don't know. So there's just so many things you can do. This kind of shawl really suits me because I tend to get hot. And so it's nice and open and breezy. I can take it off, I can put it on. It keeps my shoulders and arms warm. And I can unclip this, and I can, you know, wrap it around me. Like, wear them kind of more as a decoration around your neck than, you know, this is sort of like a jumper. So I just love this so much. So what I've decided is I went through my yarns, and this is my stash behind me. And so this is all my yarn stash and a little bit of spinning fiber too. And if you're curious about this unit, this is from IKEA, and I did a little review of it, and I'll try to put the eye in here. So far I haven't been doing great with the eyes. I think I put them in where they belong and they go somewhere else. So, but I'm going to try to put the little eye on because I have a little short video review about this. So I wanted to show you some of these ideas of what I'm going to knit together in more great big shawls like this, out of some really cool yarns, and I'm excited to show you. But first, I'll just show you my works in progress. I haven't had a whole lot done since I talked to you last. I had a bit of a fibromyalgia flare, so I was very achy and sore and a bit wonky. So I've mainly really just worked on my the winter coastline shawl, as I'm calling it, for my friend. And it's just a simple triangle shawl. And I think when I showed you last, you know, really I probably had maybe that much done, sort of. And I've gotten a fair bit more done. And I'll give you a close-up. So that's the colorway. Oh, I'll probably give you a close-up of my accidental yarn over. I have to fix that. This is Sea Rocks colorway, and it's from Eve Chambers Textiles, and it was a 150-gram ball, so it was 600 meters in it of a fingering weight, and it's blue face Leicester. And I think it's superwash. I don't know where the tag is at the minute, so I can't remember. It feels like it's probably superwash. But yeah. So this is for my friend. She's an artist. She's had such a hard things happen in her life the past few years. I mean, super hard. And now with the pandemic, it's just added on there. And I really wanted to give her a hug. And I can't give her a hug. So I thought I will make her this shawl, and that will be like a hug from me and from Tom, because Tom is really her good friend. They have been friends for many, many years. And so this is going to be a hug from Tom and I. And she picked out the color. She likes the kind of, to wear the kind of, you know, naturally type colors. And this is just, so I'm just doing a simple triangle shawl. I know she's going to wear it with style. I just want it to be cozy for her. And I just do the triangle where start off, you know, with 3 stitches, and I increase every other row. And I'm doing the little slip stitch selvage, which is quite nice. So yeah, so I'm working, most of my knitting has been that, working on it in the evening. My Donegal Studio Yarn shawl, that is the Confundo shawl pattern from Barbara Benson. I've done a bit of that. It's starting off, it's a 4-row repeat. And I'm doing that, I think it's Ellie of Craft House Magic, you know, talks about doing 20 minutes a day. And there, I think she has a KAL on her Ravelry group of that. So you could join that KAL. That's another, it's probably a make-along. I think it is a make-along. It's not just knitting. Started it so as part of the Color Play KAL that Little Big Knits is doing. So this is where I am, and I have my, like a little KAL parsley flower head dyed, and it just matches perfectly. And I'm pretty sure I got this stitch marker from Crafty Cat Knitty Bits on Etsy. And I talked about the yarn and everything on podcast 3. And so you go look there, and in the show notes of that podcast, I will have all about the yarns. And what I started also was I started my February pair of socks for the Rainbow Sock Chronicles 2021. So I'm on sock 1, and I have it in my lovely bags from Jibby Sews, Jibby, I'm sure that's supposed to rhyme, so it's probably Jibby Sews. No, it's probably, that's not what it is. Jibby Sews. No, Jibby Row Sews. Anyway, quite nice. And she's on Etsy. And so here is my sock. And I'm just following along for this one, for the Crazy Sock Ladies 9-inch circular sock. So I'm going to, because that was the one I found most successful for me at this point. And it's really blowing out. And the yarns I'm using for this one are from my Advent minis and some assorted minis. So this is from Felt Fusion, and then that is one from Fairy Realm Yarns, and the color's just blowing right out. You can't really see. So, and then sock 2 is going to be similar but slightly different but they look the same there. Behind me here, I'll bring it over, and I did a separate little video which I might insert here. This is my Rainbow Sock Chronicles basket, and this, in the majority of it, these 20-gram minis are mostly from the Felt Fusion Advent calendar that I got. And I got it right before Christmas and unwrapped. So it was at a discount. And then Tom put them all in little muslin bags for me. And I opened them from Christmas into January because I knew I would need that boost in January. So what I found is that 2 20-gram minis and 2 10-gram minis will make me a pair of socks. So 30 grams each sock. So I've taken some, I went through my mini stash. I kind of got a lot of minis to start off because they're fun and they're all different colors. So this is a really good way, I thought, to use them, because I don't mind my socks not being matchy-matchy. So I've put together this rainbow from other little minis from Fairy Realm Yarns, Yarn Unique, some are Giddy Aunt Yarns, Crafternoon Treats, and I just had the best time making this rainbow. So super excited about that. Yes. And I have the one more item that's almost a work in progress, but not quite. So I talked last time about the LuckyDipKAL that Kate from Hawthorne Cottage Craft is doing. So this is February's pick, and I'm super excited about it because it's going to be, I think it's going to be good for my first crochet project. I'm following along with the Craftsy class because I bought Craftsy. They were Blueprint and then they went back to Craftsy, and they were having a big sale. So for like €5 or dollars, or I don't know if it's across currencies, but basically a $5. You got the full year premium membership, so you can watch as many classes as you want in that full year. And I find their classes quite good because they're very step-by-step. And I've seen on Instagram the ad for that still going on. So if you wanted to think about taking part and learning something, you know, they have all kinds of fiber crafts and different crafts as well. Anyways, so I'm doing that class. And one of the first projects you make is a headband. Now, if you've been watching for a while, you may remember this colorway. This is a tale of woe. This is a spinning tale of woe. Oh, and I must say that I do the timestamps in the chapter, so if you're not interested, and I try to make them fairly specific, so if you aren't interested in my spinning tale of woe, you can look at that and skip over. So if you were with me, might have been podcast 1 even, maybe 2, and I had a lovely braid of Wensleydale. So this is Wensleydale sheep wool is the breed that I was thinking, oh, I might try to spin that up for sock yarn because Wensleydale is a strong fiber, and I thought it would be good for sock yarn. Well, of course, for sock yarn, you have to spin thinly because you want a good twist and you want several plies to make it strong, especially if you're not putting nylon in. So I thought, okay, well, this braid, it was one of the first like indie dyed braids that I'd ever bought. And I bought it in West Cork. So it was 2 years old. And I guess it just got kind of felted. Now, I don't know if it got felted with me. Well, it must have. Or maybe it was just a bit wonky as a braid. It's not necessarily something that the dyer would know about unless she had spun it. Because when I was stripping it, and it broke up really in very funny ways that I'd never experienced before. And some of the staple lengths just seemed way too short for just regular long Wensleydale. Wensleydale is a long wool. So I was kind of like, oh, what's going on there? And I was stripping it lengthwise. Anyways, I won't go into, I can't really explain it, but it was really weird and I'd never seen it before. But I thought, well, okay. And I was kind of going, this is not going to be easy to spin in sock yarn. But it also seemed like obviously parts of it were felted together, but not all of it. Anyway, this thing broke my heart. I thought that I was just the worst spinner ever. I was like, what has happened, to me spinning? And I got advice from my friends that are spinners, but it turns out, well, it seems that it was sort of just the way this was, and some of it had felted. It wasn't me. And if I'd been thinking properly, I would have taken it and left it over at Sandra King's house, and she would have carded it out for me because I sold my hand cards. You've probably heard me say if I'm not using something, sometimes I sell it to fund something else. And I wasn't using my hand cards. And of course, I was able to go up to Irish Fiber Crafter Studio all in 2019. We had no idea that was going to end with COVID. And I could use the drum carder there. So I thought, oh, anyways, yeah. So the friend I sold my hand carders to uses them all the time. So that's just as well. And this was the first time that I wished I'd had them. So anyway, so I managed to spin it, but it is just so thick, like it doesn't have a whole lot of twist. But what's funny is it's very like, in some ways, the wool that I got from my Breac cardigan, the Manos del Uruguay. It's a bulky, it's like a super bulky, and it's not tightly spun, but it's not loose. It's not like roving, like Let Lope be. But anyways, yeah, so, oh, I must talk about my Breac cardigan. I did do a little bit on that, and I'll show you. So anyways, but I'm thinking that this will be good for my first crochet project, which is a headband, and you want super bulky. Now, Wensleydale isn't always the softest wool, but I'm not finding that prickly. And the headband is mostly it's not gonna be a headband like, you know, the 60s hippie headband. Oh my goodness, I was like such a hippie kid. I used to wear headbands a lot, like in my teenage years and everything. Not that I was a teenager in the 60s, I was a child. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But you know, it's going to be a headband for your hair. So I think that will be fine. Let me run and get my Breac cardigan and I'll show you. Okay, I got it, and I remembered why I didn't show it to you is because I messed up and I ripped it back. So I don't have anything to show you, but I'll show you that yarn just because I was talking about it in case you didn't see it. Breac. I'm not saying the name of the cardigan properly. It's an Irish word meaning like speckled trout or speckled. This colorway is called Miel, M-E-I-L, from Manos de Uruguay, and it means honey. So I'm going to call my cardi the Honey Fox Shawl, or Foxy Honey Shawl, because Foxy is from our fox, our wild fox that used to come around all the time. Foxy Grace, we called her. But you can see that it's loosely spun. It's loose, but it's like it's roving, but it's not. Oh, how do I explain that? But you can see it, but it's not going to come apart. Like you can't pull it apart like Let Lope be. And it's really soft. So now you can see, so obviously this is like super bulky, and this is just more like a bulky. So I'm making this cardigan. It's a design by Carol Feller, and she's an Irish dyer. No, she's not. She's an Irish designer. She does have some of her own yarn lines. She has a shop called stolenstitches.com. I believe it's .com. But she does a lot of teaching as well. So yes, so I was watching the videos where you learn, and they're paid for videos. It's paid for class. And you learn a new cast on, and I believe it's called the cable cast on. And she was very good at teaching it, and I learned it fairly quickly. And then I went on and I started knitting, but then I realized that I'd done something funny with some of the cable cast on stitches, some of the first ones and one in the middle. And so it kind of was making my knitting go wonky the next row. So I ripped it all back. So I actually have nothing to show you except the beautiful yarn in the beautiful Foxy bag from an Irish maker. And all the details are in podcast 4 in the drop down. And I'll put all the details of things that I talked about in this video that I didn't necessarily put in video 4 in the drop down here. I haven't drank my nice Earl Grey tea. Wet my whistle. Now let's move into sort of dream knitting, and it will tie in with some of the KALs I'm interested in as well. So let's see. Let's see, how shall we do this? So I might bring you over. So I'm going to bring you over. So this is, here we go. These are all my Christmas advents. These mohair, this group here, and this group here are all from Giddy Aunt Yarns, and they're Northern Irish dyers. And what I think I'm going to do with this group here is I do believe I'm going to hold each strand double and probably marl them a bit. And I'm just going to make probably a shawl with that because I love the shawls. And I'm probably, well, also, okay, so let's just take a little moment here to say I'm turning into a huge Carol Feller fangirl. I'll set this down because it's probably wobbling. And she did an Instagram live, and I'm not on Instagram very often. Also, just to say too, I don't have any notifications on my phone. For many years, I was involved in travel writing, travel blogging, and I had to do a lot of social media. And I really kind of burnt out on it. And I also realized how detrimental, for me anyway, notifications are. So for the past probably 2 years anyways, even just with my personal accounts on social media and stuff, I don't enable notifications. So I don't know if you sent me a message or made a comment or anything until I open it up. And I open up these things when I feel like I'm in the headspace where I can. Definitely. And the same with YouTube. I don't have notifications. So I will get to your comments and all as soon as I'm able. And I really appreciate them. I really appreciate them. And I want to reply to them. But I don't see it right after you did it. So just so you know, I'm not ignoring anyone. And I've gone on that segue. I forgot what I was doing. So I was talking about Instagram. Oh yes, so Carol Feller was doing an Instagram live, and she was talking about rainbow knitting. But she also had a discount code for one of her books, which is called, I think, Rainbow Knitting, something like that. And you can see I love colors. And so it really fascinated me. And I thought I would like that book. There's patterns and all in the book, and it talks about different ways to make your rainbows and all. And some lovely photography. So probably get some ideas as well for what I might actually make pattern knitting in the future out. And let me try to show you. So we have a bunch of, so let me try to show you without covering the microphone. So we have, and again, blowing out the colors a bit. I'll show you them individually. So this is part of the Giddy Aunt Yarns Christmas Mohair Advent set. And I'm going to hold them double, and I'm going to make a big shawl like this. And I've got some of the DK. Again, this is I bought this separately for another project that I was going to make a shawl with. This is some of the Zwartables Ireland wool and the natural color. This colorway is called Elephant. And I was going to make the pressed flower shawl. I think it's by Amy Christoffers. It was going to be one of my first forays into color work. And I bought them to put it together into something kind of subtle. But I think that I'm not going to do that. I don't think that. I know that. And what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to make this the basis of the shawl. So I'll start off with elephant. I have these two deep chocolate colors, and then I'll have another elephant. And so, it's not going to work out exactly. I have to do some maths and make it all start. But these two are going to be paired in the main together. Then we're going to work into this one, and it'll start coming into covering this one. And then, nope. Then we'll have this and this against the really rich chocolate. So that's really, really going to pop. And then we'll coming off of the chocolate and into this elephant. We'll have this. I probably am not explaining that real well. I spent a lot of one day trying to figure this out and playing with different combinations, and I really think this is going to be quite pretty, and I'm super excited. I'm sorry that the camera is not quite showing you these colors the way that it should, because they're super, super beautiful. So I'm going to do that shawl. And I have one more lined up, and I was just watching the Chevy Rell Stuff podcast last night or night before, and she was talking about, so she's going to do the YarnCoitusMAL. So it's a make-along, and it's basically you take at least 2 skeins of colors dyed by different indie dyers, and you know they fornicate, and you do the marl. So you start off with color A, and then the A and B mixed, and then the B, and you can do that for as many skeins as you want, but just to see what babies they're going to make there in the middle. So that got me really excited and thinking about it. Now, this is my yarn stash, so in some ways there's not a lot. There's a lot of sort of minis here and fiber, and some other minis there, and most of them are designated for projects, so for myself or for gifts or for Tom. So I have not a whole lot of just sort of like random skeins, and the ones I do have are in my Lucky Dip make along, which is the one I was talking about earlier with Kate of Hawthorne Crafts. So I kind of went in and had a look around about what I might make, because when I was realizing how much I really love this style of shawl, I was like thinking I would like a nice big purple one. So let me show you what I might do for the YarnCoitusMAL. Now, there is a disclaimer. I would like to be a bit more adventurous with marrying the colors, but I just don't have at the moment something, you know, free to use that is that adventurous just in regular skeins. Most of my free, what I mean by free is like not designated a project skeins. Most of them are just minis, so that's not really going to work. But let me show you what I've put together. I'm taking a combination of, I had gotten 4 skeins of this beautiful colorway called Grape, Bunch of Grapes from Fairy Realm Yarns, and she's on Etsy. And this is a fingering weight, and I had gotten it a while ago because I thought, you know, that I would maybe make some kind of garment with it. And they were discounted, and I was like, oh, I really like that. I also one time Benta, and she still is having a different sale, but she was having a sale, Benta of Arctic Crafts by Benta, and I got 2 skeins to try out hers, and this is called Nebula. And I got another color that she did in the sale, Purple Rain. Come on, focus. Purple Rain. So what I'm thinking that I'm going to do is, and this is a DK, so I'm going to hold this double. I'm going to start with this purple, marl into this purple, bring in this other, so because each one of these skeins is slightly different in the Bunch of Grapes, which is then come into this one, the Purple Rain, and then end with Bunch of Grapes. They're not looking quite, they're that bit blown out on the camera, but I was thinking that might be really lovely. But it's not quite as adventurous of sort of yarn coitus as I would like it to be. But I do have another little order coming in from Benta, but again, I kind of had ideas for the yarn, and I don't think anything's going to work out, but we'll see. It might be an excuse to look at one of the skeins that I have kind of hanging around, and maybe buying another to go with. Again, from Felt Fusion, this was the main sort of, you know, the finishing skein of that advent calendar. So maybe something with that. I'm thinking, you know, not all the Babbles yarns that Irish Fabric Crafter has, I don't think she has them all up on the shop yet, on the shop website yet, but there are lots in the shop. So I would, like what I've done before, and what you could do is I just contact her. So you can email her. There's a contact form on the website, irishfibercrafters.com, irishfibercrafters.com. And I just would say to her, you know, what pinks are there in Babbles yarns, and just will you take a picture and send to me? So she would take a photo of that for you as well if you would like some of Babbles yarns. They're lovely yarns, some beautiful colors, and there's a there's a fairly large selection still. And then there's some sock blanks, and then there's some of her spinning fiber as well. So yeah, so I'm thinking I'm still going to make probably a big purple shawl out of this, but I don't know if it's what I want to do for the YarnCoitusMAL that you can join. I think this is enough of me showing you some of my stash at the minute, but of the ones that I was showing you over here, the other Giddy Aunt Yarn minis, I think what I'm going to do with some of these is I'm going to make some KALs. And Melissa of Knitting the Stash, she has a KAL pattern that's free on Ravelry, which I've downloaded. I'm going to make that at some point. And I will talk a little bit about being a monogamous knitter who has a lot of things on the needles and what's that doing to my head. But she's also running a KAL. I can't remember the name. I put it, in the notes, where you were doing something maybe you tried before, you always wanted to try, and you're just like, I'm not up to that yet. And so she has a KAL with that, and I think that's a great idea that you might want to take part of. So we're kind of segueing now into, Ooh Shiny, because KALs I find can be quite inspiring. Oh yes, so Stitches and Jacks is another podcast that I enjoy, and her name is Karen, and she lives in the UK, and she has 5 little Jack Russells, which are one of my favorite breeds of dogs, and they sometimes make an appearance. But she's a newer podcaster as well, and she's starting a KAL, and she was just kind of putting it out there. So I think in her podcast that's probably coming this week or next, she's going to talk about exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be for those projects that you kind of have half finished laying around, or you'd started, or like you have an embroidery kit that you bought last year and you never started it. So it's going to be a make along for those sort of things. So check her out if that would help you grab something that you've had laying around for a while, just give you that extra motivation to finish it. I think you have to have at least 50% still to do, or again, like a kit or something that I have an embroidery kit that I'd like to do, but I just haven't gotten to. Anyway, so that can be a really good motivation. Oh yes, and then Knitting with Cat Hair, which is another newer podcaster, and I just came across her, and she's knitting with cat hair because she has 5 cats. So, oh, that's cute. Oh, Stitches and Jacks has 5 dogs, and Knitting with Cat Hair has 5 cats. Oh, I just like those kind of little things. Anyways, she's doing Around the World KAL, and it's a year-long KAL, and it's broken into quarters, and this quarter is you knit with yarn or a pattern from your home country, so where you're living now. It doesn't have to necessarily be your home country. So that is running, I think, till March. But again, look at her. She has a Ravelry group as well, and I'll link that. So that's this section. And if you knit with yarn from your part of the country and a pattern, so you get 2 entries in for the prizes. And if you just do one, you just get one. And of course, I was talking about the Breac Creations podcast. She was one of my recommendations last year. Knit along, which I have no hope of doing at the minute because it's so far over my head. But it's with it's some other podcast knit along with the Tudor Roses book, which is amazing. The first time I ever saw anything from that book was from Stitching Over the Days, Constance. Jaw-dropping. I mean, like, I started watching when I was very, very new to knitting podcasts, and I still wasn't knitting at all, and I was just watching out of curiosity and relaxation. The first things that I saw was something from that Tudor Roses book, and I was like, I know that has got to be so hard. Anyway, so there's a segue. So if you are able to do that kind of stuff and you'd like, somebody to knit along with, that KAL might really interest you. That I'm not sure what they're calling the KAL, but I'll put it in the show notes. So another podcast I wanted to mention this time is a podcast in the States, but she's in, and I don't know, I just find this so exciting because it just seems so like wild and wildernessy, is Wyoming. She's in the state of Wyoming. And her name is Kayla, and her podcast is the Naughty Pine podcast, I think, or maybe it's Naughty Pine Yarns. But she's a dyer. She's just started dyeing recently. And her colors, she has so many of like those foxy colors, or what sometimes people call natural colors. And I'm sure I say natural color sometimes as well, like when you're talking about this. But at the same time, part of me goes, that's ridiculous, because if you live in a tropical country, you probably have a lot of amazing tropical flowers around you, and those are natural. So anyways, but if you know what I mean, sort of like earth tones, earthy tones, and foxy tones. Oh, really, really beautiful. So she's a podcast she might like to check out. And of course, Tom, my partner Tom, is a big Fisher person. He used to be really, really, really into it as a younger man. He's a catch and release. Like he goes through phases where he's like, I don't know if I want to disturb the fish even doing that, but he does love fishing. Oh, the reason I started talking about that is because Kayla has a few different on her podcast at the end where they go ice fishing, and that's so cool. Again, oh yes, this is another one I want to say, because I was asking about what podcasts are you enjoying in episode 4, and I believe it is Elaine. I should have written down her. I didn't write her name down, but you know who you are if you're watching. She left a wonderful long list of podcasts she enjoys. And there was another lady that's there. So there was a few people that suggested. So I would say, if you're looking for some more podcasts to add to your roster, because, you know, there's never enough, is there? Oh, there's so many. It's hard to keep up. Also, I've had a couple different questions about my accent and how, you know, because it comes in and out of American and into Irish. Used to be thoroughly Irish because I was living here for, so I got a phone call from Tom. He's out within our 5-mile radius, out walking the dog. He's out walking with Mimi. Shep wanted to stay here with me because it's kind of cold and he's a little bit older. And but within our 5-mile radius, there are several sort of different prehistoric type things, stone things. So he's out investigating one on the walk. So, anyhow, but he was right. Okay. So I've had several different questions, sort of about like my accent and, you know, different things like that. I will definitely answer. I would love to talk about that and sort of my, you know, my funny accent, and it's a mix of Irish and American, and, you know, coming to Ireland and that sort of thing. Definitely will chat about that. Not probably in this podcast because it's ended up being kind of longer. And also Dee had a question about blocking and how I block. And I am no way a blocking expert, but I'll tell you what I do and show you what I use, and I will find some recommended videos to link in. And again, if any of you guys have, you know, a tip or a recommended video that I should share, leave it in the comments here, and in the next podcast, or maybe I'll do a dedicated video of that, I can share that information there. Okay. Oh yes, and I had one more Oooo shiny that I wanted to share. Hold on a second. Okay, so and also as part of the Oooo shiny, I want to sit down and specifically show you some of the patterns that have come to my attention or that I have mentioned here earlier. And first off, here we go. So I was talking about the It's a Wrap Cow by Melissa of Knitting the Stash, Melissa Littlefield. And this is a free pattern on Ravelry. And I know I think some people still can't use Ravelry. And I'd say if you contacted her, she would, you know, on her YouTube channel, she would be happy to send you an email of the pattern instead. I'm going to show the Ravelry page on my tablet. I don't think that will hurt anyone, their eyes, but if it does, I just want you to know right now I'm getting ready to show 3 patterns by holding up the tablet with that website on there, just to just to let you know. Then I was talking about Melissa of Knitting the Stash, her free pattern on Ravelry. It's a wrap cow, and you have sort of the longer version and then the shorter version. So think I'm going to use that KAL pattern. Talking about crochet and my first crochet pattern that I want to try, the headband. In that course, you go through and you make a few different things. But once I finish that course, or when I feel confident enough, I really want to try this. This is the Namaste shawl, and by a crochet designer. I'm going to try to say her name. Matinee Maya Imchum. And I think she's, Maya Luna Corazon is, I think the name she designs under. But this is the Namaste shawl. It's crochet, but it is very much a beginner friendly pattern. And I see that right now she has 15% all of her patterns in her shop, in her Ravelry shop. Anyway, so I got that because I thought that was really good. I looked, and she has a sweater. She has a lot of patterns actually, and she seems to be probably well known in the crochet world. She has a YouTube channel which I've subscribed to now, and so that is a shawl pattern. I'll take myself out, that I'm looking forward to doing at some point. So that's sort of, ooh, shiny, totally distracted me. Not ready to take that on yet, but that was shiny something. And then such a nice thing happened. So Carrie, she's My Wool Mitten on Instagram, and she has a podcast here on YouTube as well. She posted a picture of this beautiful KAL that looked like it had stained glass going through it. And I think it was a Caitlin Hunter pattern. I can't remember off the top of my head. And I really admired it. And she was so kind. And she messaged me and said, there's a pattern just like it, basically, or so similar, on Ravelry for free. And it's called the Lozenge KAL. And it's by Peg Mayer. And this is it. So I immediately went to Ravelry. And of course, I couldn't upload it for ages, or I couldn't get the page to come up for ages, and I was waiting to see, because of my internet. And finally, it came up, and I was like, that is fantastic. So I have downloaded that, and that is something I definitely want to do. And what I'm going to do with this is that, as you can see here, one of the ways you can do it is where it's sort of like color change. And that's what can make it really look like stained glass, I thought. So I have a lot of fiber, and I have a cubby full of fiber up there, of colored fiber there, and I have a bit of fiber here. And one day I'll show you my fiber. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin for it, because of, Babel's Yarns, Hey Brown Berry, and Knitting Expat are running the Fluff to Stuff 2021, I think is the hashtag. And they actually have that as an Instagram account and a Ravelry group as well, I believe. And it's where you're either going to use hand spun from somewhere else, or create and use your own hand spun in projects this year. And it's year long, so it's kind of for a bigger project or several small or whatever. And I think I'm going to definitely put this Lozenge KAL as one of my projects. So I'll use my hand spun for that. So I'm really, really excited. I haven't spun anything this week at all, but I shall. So I think that I'm just looking over my little notes here, and I think I've mentioned mainly the things that I wanted to mention. And so a wonderful thing has happened here on the channel, in that we're over 500 subscribers now. So that's really exciting. And so I'm thinking I'd very much like to do a giveaway I'll give away when we reach 1,000. I don't know how long that's going to take. Stupid looking stupid. Well, we'll see if that picked up anything. Oh my goodness. I forgot to put this back on. So I'm going to end here, and thank you so much for joining me, friends. Leave any suggestions there in the comments, the different questions that I've asked of you. I can't even remember at the minute. Ideas for blocking tips of good video tutorials about blocking. Let us know, because we will really appreciate that. So I sincerely hope that you and yours are well and that you're doing as best you can through this time and truly through any time. And I hope that you find those little joyful moments throughout the day that are there every day, even if it's only like a millisecond of enjoying, a fragrance or something. It will be there. And I know I found for myself personally, the more you notice, the more you notice. And it's helpful. It's not a cure-all, but it helps. So I wish all good things for you, friends. May you be well.